All right, everybody, we are live after Rutgers' dramatic 27-24 victory over Purdue. I'm in Jersey. Brian is in West Lafayette, Indiana. I got to tell you, I didn't think we'd be talking about a victory when Purdue had the ball with a minute left, tie score. Rutgers with a chance to go up with a touchdown late, settle for a field goal. I'm like, oh man, this is trending the wrong direction. But look, let's give the defense credit. Huge turnover, got the ball back. And then I think the one player that we really need to celebrate here, or to give a pat in the back, Jay Patel, a guy who was automatic as a field goal kicker for the longest time. Then he wasn't, like it was like a golfer with the yips. He goes up and he just drills this 31-yard field goal to give him the win. It's his biggest field goal of his career. It's hard. We don't know where this is going to go, if this is the last win, if they're going to be 4-8. But Brian, it's certainly a significant victory given where the season was headed.
It's a win they had to have, and it's a win that we now get to talk about the big plays the defense made and the kicks Jay Patel made, and the way the offense came through in the second half rather than some of the negatives in this game. Right. And if they had lost this game, it would be one of the worst, what's the word? Choke jobs, maybe. Maybe that's too harsh, but it was a game they should have won, a game they overcame some pretty bad play in the first half, put themselves in position. And if Purdue had driven down on that last drive after Rutgers stalled in the red zone again and had to settle for a tying field goal, we'd be having a much different conversation. On Jay Patel, the penultimate field goal, the one to tie the game, in my opinion, was more important. Obviously, you can't win the game without tying the game. But I mean for his personal confidence, because if he misses that field goal, I don't think there's any way he comes back from that. I really don't. That was a career-defining field goal, and I don't think that's an exaggeration. And once he nailed it, I got to say, I was nervous for the guy. Just on a human level, I would feel awful for him if he missed that field goal. He ties the game. I was pretty confident he'd make the second one, just because once you get that relief, you're able to bounce back. The defense played well. The first two drives, they looked awful. They looked Oregon-esque. They were getting shredded, giving up huge plays, not knowing where to be. And to some extent, on all three touchdowns, they had no idea where to be. And on other plays throughout the game, they all still had no idea where to be. But credit where it's due, in a stretch of 6 drives, outside of the first drive of the second half where they scored a touchdown, Purdue, Rutgers got 5 stops, 5 forced punts. That's, if it's not the high of the season, it's got to be one of the highs. So the defense had one of its best games of the year in a crucial time.
Right. Yeah. And I think that we are now judging them on a curve in some ways, and so after what happened against Oregon, I didn't think they were a functional defense anymore. And, to come out the way they did. And again, you give up that big run. You're like, oh my God, here we go again. Where are the adjustments? What's supposed to happen here? I will say, still some lingering concerns. What's going to happen against a better offense, against a better passer? I mean, Ryan Brown missed some wide open receivers there, underthrew a couple guys. But having receivers wide open twice in the end zone for touchdowns, the first of which to look like, Ryan looked at the defensive back was pointing at him like, hey, that guy's open, and then still nothing. No one called a timeout. No one adjusted to it. He just walked in the end zone, running back caught the ball. The second one again is just like Kai Sanders, I think, took a bad route, or somebody, Bo Masco, I think, took a bad route, went the wrong direction, left the receiver wide open. A couple of just mistakes where you're still seeing these things again and again. They can't happen against good teams. Fortunately, Rutgers was not playing a good team today. Purdue, 15 straight losses to Power 14 teams. Hey, look, they had to get a break, and finally they did. At the end of the game, they got a break. That's you finally had something go your way there, where Ryan Brown throws a pass, it gets deflected, he catches it ill-advised, takes 2 steps, has it knocked out of his hands. They just needed that. They just needed something to go their way, and it finally did.
It's not an original thought. Schiano has tweeted us about 3 times since the game ended. That is the way Rutgers loses games, usually. That's the kind of game we talk about for 10 years. Remember when Rutgers lost the game that way? And Rutgers benefited from, Purdue having no idea how to win a game because it's been so long. So they lost 14 straight Big Ten games. They've lost 16 straight Power 5 games. They haven't won a game since the last game of 2023 against Indiana. That's how long it's been. Indiana sucked the last time Purdue won a Big Ten game. Yes, they benefited from playing a bad team, a bad offense, which had its moments, right? They had the big plays, but they couldn't do the simple things. And they did so despite getting 0 sacks. Rutgers got 0 sacks, which is amazing. It's amazing that this just continues to happen. You'd think they happen by accident. You'd think they get one sack,
Yeah.
and they had third and longs, right? It's not like Purdue was always dealing, but they stopped Purdue 8 times on 9 third downs, but they couldn't get a sack. And until literally their last play of the game, Rutgers had 0 takeaways against the team that was averaging 2.3 of them against FBS teams. Purdue was giving the ball away like candy, and Rutgers, until to their credit, got it at the most important point of the game. But they wouldn't have been in that situation if they had gotten a turnover earlier in the game and given themselves an extra possession. Look, I don't know how you would grade the defense. I'm doing this, I'm coming right. What's the word I'm looking for? From the hip. I'm shooting from the hip. I give them, all things considered, probably a C+.
Yeah, it's a remedial class, this defense. So I'm giving them a B. Honestly, they weren't the reason this game was close. And it's funny you say that. I mean, given that they had breakdowns and gave up points, but this offense should have been better in this game. And let's good transition to the other side of the ball. And I say that on a day where the 2 best players were in the game, were Rutgers offensive players. Fully acknowledge that. Antoine Raymond, 29 carries, 116 yards, a touchdown. KJ Duff, I mean, just a brilliant performance. 6 catches, 241 yards, 1 touchdown. This is a Leonte Carew type game where every catch is like 40 yards. I mean, he had the big touchdown, just an incredible wide open, and on that play. But then he made some contested catches. Just kept them in the game on a day where Ian Strong wasn't lined up to his left. He just dominated. And this is the kind of game. Again, this is the kind of game when you have the 2 best players on the field, you should win games like this. And they did. That said, I'm not giving the offense more than a C. There were so many opportunities they threw away. A fumble, they went for it and failed to convert. Just a couple of things where for a team that had 540 yards, they should have been in control of this game.
The stat that it's been following them for the last 3 games, the stat that tells the story. They had 5 red zone trips. They had 2 touchdowns. That is it, right? They had 2 field goals, and then they had the 4th down conversion where I agreed going for it. I think you agree with me.
Me too. 100%.
You got to go for that. You're right there. You're moving the ball, and your defense, the way it was playing at that point in the game, couldn't stop a nosebleed. It was the right call, and it was a good play. The guy was open. Ethan just didn't put enough air under the ball. I thought he had his best game in a while, probably since Iowa. He wasn't excellent. The numbers look better than he played probably, but he came up with some big throws. He probably could have had another one if DT Sheffield was able to make, albeit, a tough catch, but a catch he should make.
Yeah.
And KJ made tough catches, but Ethan put the ball in place for him to catch them. So I didn't think the offense was bad. I agree that they didn't take advantage of their opportunities. They should have scored more points. This is just becoming a habit here for this offense where they are moving the ball, but when it comes to the red zone, when it comes to the money downs, when it comes to cashing it in, they're not putting the ball in the end zone. And that's the issue. That's why you're in a 1-score game with Purdue, which is the worst team in the Big Ten, with 5 minutes to go. You got to take advantage of those opportunities when you create them.
Yeah. The blocking wasn't great. It was one thing, 5 sacks, I think, for Purdue. Some of that, the Ethan holding on to the ball too long. But a couple of times, Tyler Needham just got blown past. They lost Taj White in this game. It looked serious. You guys didn't get a chance to ask about that in the post game, but and he wouldn't mention anyway. But it certainly looked like this offensive line is going to be shaken up now. In another way, I'd say that's a big concern going forward because that unit did not play well in pass blocking situations.
Yeah, so now you got what they did was they moved Needham to right tackle, and they put in Mashoud Giwa, transfer who they like. They think he has high upside. I don't know if he's quite ready yet, but he's going to be thrust into action if what ends up happening to Taj White is as bad as it looked. And he might not be the only one they lose for a long time because Al-Shadi Salam looked like he got banged up really badly in the first half on a play that ended up it was a fumble recovery that ended up not happening because of from what I understand, a horrible call from the officials for kick catch interference. I didn't get a good look at it. So what did you think? Did you think that was an egregious call, or was it just?
I thought it was close. Certainly Mike Pereira came on and said that he thought it was a bad call right away. If he says so, then I think you could say it was. I didn't think it was like, holy cow, Rutgers got robbed. But when I saw it the first time, I'm like, is that really a kick interference?
One of those calls. Part of the brotherhood. He if unless it's an egregious call,
Yeah,
he's going to side with the refs, right? So that's pretty telling that that he said that.
100%.
Um,
That would have changed the game. That would have been a big, huge play. Although Rutgers defense did come up there, I think pretty big.
yeah, and look, there were a couple of moments where they ultimately didn't matter, but they could have made a huge difference. I was thinking, right as Purdue has the ball, it's 24 all, it's a minute left.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking to myself, that field goal in the first half they didn't take really would, when they went for it on four, with the play we were just praising Schiano for going for it on fourth down.
Right.
Those 3 points would have been really valuable at this point. You can't play that game, but there was a lot of those like second guessing and moments that we would look back on if they hadn't won this game, which is why it was so important for them to win this game. And I guess just to transition there, like how important is this win? I mean, not for the season, right? Like, yes, it keeps them in bowl contention. I'm not quite sure that's a thing that people are going to really hang on to at this point, other than kind of maintaining what they've done the last 2 years. But I think it's positive in the other direction in that it stops the bleeding. Because
Yes.
Greg talked a bit about in the post game that guys could have, thrown up their hands and said, whatever, the season's over, and they didn't. I think if you lose that game the way they would have lost to that team would have been a catastrophe.
Yeah.
But not only how it would look, but how it would impact the locker room.
Totally. Then you're staring at 0-9 in the Big Ten this year. Then you're the worst team in the Big Ten. I mean, it's just you lose to the worst team, then that's you, really. Yeah, it certainly could have snowballed the other direction. Then you go on the road again to Illinois. You still got Ohio State. I mean, yeah, there's a lot that this was really, and I think it showed in Greg Schiano's emotions. And he's won bigger games than this. I don't think this is in his top 10 of like, let's remember big victories for Greg Schiano. I don't think I've seen him that way more than a handful of times. I'm sure someone can send me the big list and maybe there's a bunch of them. I don't remember any of them when he crying, hugging Joe Susan, falling to one knee, pumping his fist. It's just a very emotional Greg Schiano on the field. And I think, part of that is no question that he felt where this was going. And this team needed this victory. We needed this. This one's what he said. Also, this is a pretty dramatic quote. I wrote it down. That may be the hardest I've worked in a week of football in my life. For a guy who painfully wants to make sure he reveal, like even after the game, he wouldn't just, did you call the plays, Greg? Just tell us if you called the plays. Wouldn't reveal that. It's fine. It was a committee. Everyone worked together. Even the players had an impact. Like, okay, I understand. He just want to show up as coaches. Okay. But yeah, it was a pretty honest a comment for, certainly the last week and a half since that loss. We talked about some of the off the field stuff, father of a player dying of cancer, that happened during the week. Clearly a very emotional, difficult week, took its toll. I think some of those tears might've been exhaustion. Some of it might've just been, I really do think that he understood what would have happened had it gone the other way, how much they needed this. I think that's the biggest reason why he was so emotional.
I don't know if he knew exactly, but I had my headline written, if they lost this game in the first quarter, it's official. Rutgers is the worst team in the Big Ten. And I don't think he was thinking of that specifically, but I do think he realized how bad this game would have been for this season and for the future of the program. Because if there's a bigger sign of a downslide than losing to Purdue, the worst Purdue in a long time on the road in that way, I'd be hard pressed to find it. I think he was emotional somewhat to this level after a win in 2020. I think it was Michigan State. It was one of the later games in the 21 or 2020. I can't find it. I just did a quick search, but no, I've never seen Greg drop to a knee. I mean, just the difference between the jubilation of him pumping his fist and celebrating, then going down to a knee, almost in just like thanking the Lord that they won, then to hugging everyone, just the mix, and then even Ethan Kaliakmanis got into the mix. I was watching them after the game; they're doing their post game interviews. I can't remember who's doing it with who. But Ethan goes after his and goes to hug Greg, just holds him really, really tight. Ethan talked about them having his long conversation in his office on Thursday and how he also had the longest week of his life football-wise. Like, they poured a lot into this game because I think everyone sensed, and Jordan Walker, he told us after the Oregon game that he needs his guys to man up, be men, and do the work. And he said after this game that's what guys did. Guys manned up. Guys did what they had to do. Emotional locker room, excited locker room. Guys were a little coy, but my understanding was this is a higher level of win. I can't remember. I can't know for sure if the emotion was relief, excitement, but I would have to think from where I'm sitting, the relief has to be the overwhelming.
Oh yeah.
To your point, like Greg said, it was the hardest week he's worked, and he said he kind of just fell in exhaustion. I just think just the weight of the world coming off these guys' shoulders was very clear.
No question about it. And it does open up, I do think opens up a pathway for some success this season. It certainly will keep people engaged now. I don't know Although the last time I checked the score, it's early in the game, but Washington is up 14-10 on Illinois. 23rd ranked Illinois, still a close game. Obviously, that could go either way, but you go to Illinois, even if you lose there, you can come back. You got Maryland at home. Maryland at the same level, and then another one of these games that you're on at least equal footing with an opponent. I think you could even say Rutgers is more talented. I don't know. We'll find out. But if you win that game, then you're sitting there at 5-6. I'm sorry, Ohio State. We're going to give that an L, with a chance to make the last game of the season interesting against Penn State. And I don't know which either way it goes. At least there will be some drama in SHI Stadium. Who knows what Penn State will look like at the time. This win gives you a path to a relevant November, and
Yes.
that counts for something. I mean, the whole point of a college football season is it's entertainment at the very least. And I think if they lost today, a lot of fans would have said, "Okay, see you next August."
I think it would have been worse than that. And I think that's why what didn't happen is more important than what did happen and what's going to happen. Because if they lost this game, you had a preview of what would happen in the first and second quarter. I don't know about your Twitter mentions and your Discord conversations, but fire Schiano was the most popular word all over my computer. People were ready. There are people that already want it to happen, right? Like there are people that are already on that side of the fence, and they would just be ready to release the dogs after this one. And I think they would have as good a point as ever if they had lost this game, right? So you prevent that avalanche. That's what the season would turn to. That's what the offseason would turn to, and it still could. But that's what the entire agenda of Rutgers football would be for the next 6, 12, 18 months would be
absolutely
a referendum on Greg Schiano. Now, look, you lose to Illinois, you lose to Ohio State, you lose to Penn State. People are going to be upset. Those people will continue, but it won't become an avalanche the way it would have been if they lost this game.
Right. Absolutely. Yes. Okay. So, hey, do you have any questions? I don't know if people are actually in the chat.
We don't have any questions. Really quick, a couple things I forgot to mention. They had a chance to drive down the field and win the game. They didn't score a potential game-winning touchdown, but they kicked the field goal. So at the very least, they didn't do what they did at Minnesota, where they pitched the ball between their legs, or against Iowa, where they threw an interception. At the very least, they didn't beat themselves at the end. I think that's progress. Obviously, the better progress would be to score the touchdown, but they're making progress in that direction.
Right. You were now 1-3 in those games. If you could have put Washington on that list, maybe they're on a higher level, the Huskies. But certainly, you finally won one that could have been a toss up. And that's good. It's a sign of progress. I mean, it's funny. And people were on Twitter, William Tate, the president of the university, tweeted out a photo of his t-shirt, the win. Yeah, clearly that's all that matters, right? You got the dub.
Heck of a promoter, this William Tate. I wonder how much I am lost for words. I get so exhausted watching these games. I forget how to speak English, but
okay.
What do you call it? Getting a percentage of something? Like like how much money does he make off the shirts? He gets like a 10%.
You think he's
commission?
I mean,
thank you.
Put it toward the NIL. Yeah.
So
what was the scene? What was the scene out there in West Lafayette? This is one of the Big Ten venues I've never been, and not trending toward getting there in my lifetime. How was it?
It was a bit muted. Decent homecoming crowd, not great. A lot of empty pockets. Some juice when they were winning, and some plays, but not the greatest home atmosphere I've been around. Understandably so. If we're going to compare what happened here today to what was a comparable Rutgers situation during not the end of the Chris Ash era when it got really bad, but when it was getting kind of really bad, like that's what I would compare it to. Just kind of, people still show up, but the stadium setup is not great. No one's going to cry for the media, but there was a lot of issues getting to the press conference room, and even Greg had to take a golf cart across from the locker room to the press conference room, and just not ideal. And then it was a bit of a walk to West Lafayette High School where we parked our cars, but no one cares about that stuff.
Right.
We have were you gonna say something?
I was just gonna say world's largest drum. Didn't know that existed. That was there. And sharks in the I didn't know that was a thing. Things I learned today.
I didn't know the sharks. Are the sharks a normal thing? Did they talk about that on the broadcast?
Yes, I guess they didn't talk about it, but from our research here, sitting in front of the computer, I guess one of the dorms. It's a tradition from one of the dorms in West Lafayette. Sharks
to show up to every home game.
I think so. Yeah.
Interesting. I posted a video on Twitter. They were mimicking the Rutgers warm up. They were doing the stretches and the sprints, and I thought it was kind of That was kind of funny.
Nice.
Good-natured ribbing. And the other thing we were talking about, oh, the drum. So yeah, the drum. I've known about the drum. Dan Wetzel talks about it on his former podcast, College Football Inquirer, all the time. You know, I was in the press box. It was hard to tell to gauge the size of it. It looked pretty big. I don't know, but it's not the size. It's not the size of the drum. It's the sound it makes when you hit it. Steve, we all know that. So
that's good.
So the question.
That's a good one.
Thanks. I thought about it the entire third and fourth quarter when I was predicting my demise, that they were going to lose this game, and I was going to be 5 inches from Greg's face. That's another thing about this venue is the press conference chairs and the seat where the coach sits are like this, like this apart.
Yeah.
So if Greg got really upset at one of my questions and he got a little emotional, he would have gotten spit all over my face. So thankfully they pulled out. Anyway, we're getting off the rails here. Someone asked, the one question we've gotten so far in 20 minutes is, we've seen the lead up to that ending many times. And we talked about this a little bit. Rutgers did not come through at against Minnesota. Why did they come through today? The answer is because Purdue is the worst team they've played this year outside of Norfolk State. They are bad.
Yeah.
Only bad teams lose games that way.
Yeah. I mean, that's certainly the biggest reason, right? Let's not pretend it was something that it wasn't. I mean, just of all the things, I've just never seen that. Like the quarterback caught his own pass and fumbled it. I mean, it's just bizarre, right? I don't know. It's just they had to force the fumble, they had to recover it, they had to make the field goal. I mean, Rutgers won the game after that happened. I'm not diminishing the victory, to be clear, but I mean, when it happened, you're just like, holy crap, did that really just happen? That is how bad football is. This is, again, keep Purdue in the schedule, Big Ten, if you can help us out here in New Jersey, because that's a tough loss there for the Boilermakers, man.
It's not equivalent, but I thought of the fourth down spike immediately. Like it's that kind of beat yourself.
Yes. Right. But that was Michigan State was like fourth in the country though at that time. I mean,
yes, and Rutgers wasn't as bad as Purdue is now, but if you think about the gap between the two teams, it's probably somewhat similar.
Okay. Fair enough.
Rutgers is 3-0 now against Purdue. They're the only team, I believe, in the Big Ten they have not lost to yet.
Wow. There you go.
That counts for something.
Nice. Okay. That's good. All right. Should we sign off there? Any final thoughts?
Well, let me go on the YouTube comments and see if anyone left anything. I refuse to believe that the 30 people tuning into this have nothing to say to us. Let's see. And it might echo, so I apologize if it does. Okay. All right, well, we got nothing, so.
There you go. They've got nothing to say. We're much chattier after losses. What's wrong with us? All right. Anyway, we'll be back on Monday as usual to do our podcast, preview the Illinois game later in the week. And enjoy it, Rutgers fans. You got one. Thanks for listening.